evening, everyone. Welcome here to the season finale, race number 7 of the second season of the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series. At the end of tonight's 60-lap event, we're crowning ourselves a champion, and it'll be a driver hoisting the championship trophy for the very first time, as 3 drivers technically come into this race battling for said championship. Everyone chasing last week's winner, Bronson Stafford. And he's got the pole position here tonight, as I'm joined by Lucas Cram, as always. And Lucas, a lot of different stories coming into this one. We've, of course, got that battle for the championship. We got the dash for cash going on here. And there's just a whole bunch of drivers in the field that want to finish out the season with a victory.
Yeah, most definitely. It's no better place than here at iRacing Superspeedway. We saw it in the last race there. I believe we had a 4-wide pass for the lead there on the back straightaway. And this place creates some crazy racing. Daytona and Talladega are always absolutely incredible races, but this track, 3 miles in length and insane banking here around this 3-mile super speedway, it just produces some wild racing, some wild finishes. I'm sure tonight definitely won't be any different.
Now, there were some scenarios for, 3 different drivers trying to get this championship away from Bronson Stafford. Shane Tyrion, with a good run last week, is a total of 86 points behind Stafford coming into this race. Robert Kenny, 89 points back. Those 2 drivers basically needed to win the race, lead a lap, lead the most laps, and hope Stafford finishes outside of the top 10. Michael Norman theoretically had a shot of winning this championship, but that basically would have been if the other 3 drivers did not show up for this race, and all 3 of them are in the race here tonight, so he's effectively out of the championship picture. And I just was notified as well, with Bronson Stafford capturing this pole position here tonight, if he's able to lead just 1 lap, he's pretty much got the championship all but locked up. So who knows? By the time we take the completion of the first lap of this race, we may already know who the champion is.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to very, very close numbers there for sure. Like you mentioned, just 2 bonus points is what you get for leading the lap here in this series. But with the 86-point lead you had here on Shane Tyrion entering the night, it's going to take a lot, obviously, for that gap to change. And with Shane Tyrion starting in the 5th position here, it's going to be really tough for him to get those 10 bonus points for starting the furthest back in the field and getting the most positions. So Robert Kenny did leave the session and rejoin him, and unfortunately it still gridded him in the 7th position. So it looks like, as you mentioned, for the most part, it's probably pretty much just up to Bronson here if you lead the first lap.
We may have set a couple of records here in the Sunday Superspeedway Series, and maybe the quickest after taking the green flag in a finale that we're going to know who the champion's going to be. And it may be the fewest number of drivers we've seen ever take time in a superspeedway race. Only 3 drivers actually took time in the qualifying session: Stafford, Tellier, and Norman. Jovan Anderson's going to line up in the 4th position, 2nd start in the season for him. Shane Tyrion will line up on the 5th spot alongside of Cody Lamas. Robert Kenny will be 7th. Garrett Hess making his debut here tonight will roll off on the outside of row number 4. Another debuting driver in Harry Grindell. He's going to be rolling off 9th, with the outgoing champion David Durand to his outside in 10th. John Cananzaro and Justin Durand in row 6. Vincent Valvano and Dylan Poti, row 7. Matthew Rodriguez, Jason Shuey in 15th and 16th. And final car in the field in 17th is Dylan Body. The season finale, 60 laps of racing at iRacing Superspeedway is green. Let's get ready to find out who's going to win the dash for cash, who's going to clinch that championship.
And you see immediately Michael Norman, that freshly paid McDonald's scheme, gives a nice shove there to 6-1 machine of Bronson Stafford. But Shane Tyrion trying to fit that lap lead away. As you mentioned, Bronson Stafford, as soon as he leaves the lap, he'll most likely have the championship clinched up. It's made some contact there on his outside. But immediately, the 3 championship contenders, 1, 2, 3, all single file there on the inside lane.
And now Kenny's going to jump up to the top side, try and pick up Michael Norman. Now Bronson Stafford's got some choices to make. There's Shane Tyrion down below the yellow line. We talked about it the first time we were here at iRacing Superspeedway this season. All of that is legal. There is no out of bounds. And it's about 2-3 lanes down there on the inside of the back straightaway to work with. But Kenny on the top side is going to take the lead into 3.
Some new paint schemes work here with this week. That GoDaddy machine, the 34. Robert Kenny takes the race lead immediately. The Monster Energy Toyota Camry. Bronson Stafford fights back to the outside, gets a huge run here to Shane Tyrion, makes it 3 wide down the inside, and a come across the start finish. It looks like Bronson Stafford will lead the first lap. Hits the safer barrier a little bit as they come across the line. Shane Tyrion actually managed to steal away from it right there.
Did indeed get to the start-finish line first at Bronson Stafford, and you see him now immediately start dropping to the back. So with that lap led, he's all but clinched the championship. Now, let's also remember that Bronson Stafford is a former winner here at iRacing Superspeedway back in season 1, and so he would love to be able to, or actually, correction, I'm sorry, he actually had a second place run here in the first iRacing Superspeedway race this season, so he'd love to finish one position better. Would love to kind of pull a David Duran from last season when Duran not only won the championship, but won the season finale race.
Yeah, you mentioned Bronson Stafford, actually. He barely clipped the wall there coming across the start finish line. Shane Tyrion stole that lap lead from him, so he did not get his 2 bonus points right there. Now, being kind of mired back in traffic, at least for now. Obviously, there's still a long ways to go here at iRacing Superspeedway, and a lot can happen, but he did not pick up those 2 bonus points. So as Michael Norman now picks up this lap lead, gets another 2 bonus points for himself, it is still not totally clinched yet for Bronson Stafford. He's still got some work to do here.
Robert Kenny stuck on that outside line with no help. He did have Mike Tellier for a moment. Tellier goes really wide through 1 and 2. Looks like he's dropping to the back. The Fords were working together with Jovan Anderson pushing Michael Norman. Now they break up, and Shane Tyrion's going to try and pass them both down on the apron to the back straightaway.
Yeah, once again, trying to make that apron line work is immediately now 3, 4, 5 wide on the back straight. Matthew Rodriguez backs out of it there. One of our Dash for Cash drivers decides better of it. Heading into turn number 3 is now the 6 machine of Dylan Body. Gets a huge push from his teammate right there, Dylan Poteep, on the outside lane. And now Bronson Stafford, Robert Kenny fight for the race lead here.
It is the 4th time in TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series history that we've run here at iRacing Superspeedway. All 3 former winners are in the field here tonight. David Durand, Matthew Rodriguez, and of course Robert Kenny from the first iRacing event that we had here in Season 2.
Big block right there with Bronson Stafford in front of the Ford right there, 93, Jovan Anderson, as now he tries to cover in front of Robert Kenny, and these guys, you just see the runs are absolutely insane here at iRacing Superspeedway. You could,
Terry Grindell!
Caution flag waves for a single car spin there on the apron. Luckily for him, he kind of managed to just lock the brake down and keep that thing pointing in the right direction without getting too much damage. And for our debut driver here, it's a pretty good save right here.
Definitely a good save there. First start of the year in the season finale for Harry Grindell. You have to wonder if, with what we see here tonight, will give us some information on what to expect from this driver if he returns for the upcoming 3rd season of this series. But early issues for him on lap number 4, as I believe it was he and Jovan Anderson that might have gotten together. They were looking to make it 4 wide off of turn 2 and heading down the back straightaway.
I look like Robert Kenny actually was kind of pinching the 70 machine there down off of turn number 2, and they kind of just got together, each drifted in each other's lane. They kind of went for the same real estate there, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, that door contact sent the 70 machine down on the apron and sliding sideways. But luckily, not really too much damage for our championship contender, the Robert Kenny, or the 70 machine. Both of them seem to just have some minor fender damage in both their Toyota Camrys, and besides some optional repair, they should be all clean and green.
Taken on board here with the debuting driver of Harry Grindell, who was at the time running unofficially in the 4th position, had done a nice job of working his way up there into the top 5 after starting 9th in this race. And there you see just no warning with the 34 coming down to his right side, locking up the brakes. There's a lot of runoff there to the inside line. A lot of drivers able to get on the brakes, slow the car down before making contact with that inside wall, but never even went down to that second yellow line on the back straightaway. Nice job there by Harry Grindell, dodging an early bullet, and I don't necessarily think that contact is going to warrant him having to use a fast repair this early on. Looks like more cosmetic damage than anything on that right front.
Yeah, I'd assume it's probably like less than 10 seconds of optional repairs. But back live here at front, Shane Tyrion, actually our race leader, decides to head down pit road. It is behind Robert Kenny, Mike Taylor, and the 6 machine Dylan Body, all say out on the racetrack. So early pit calls here already. Maybe some fuel numbers to have in their head. They're just trying to get confirmed before, they may have to make an extra pit stop here. Because I believe the last time I came here at iRacing Superspeedway, if I recall correctly, we had a really, really long green flag run to start the event, and fuel numbers definitely came into play for a lot of guys putting together and kind of having to pit by themselves and losing the draft. So, definitely could be a lot different here in the championship finale this time around at iRacing Superspeedway. But maybe some of these guys are getting some of that extra security to make sure that they don't have to pit by themselves here if this goes green for a bit.
Yeah, I knew you'd be correct on that too. iRacing Superspeedway was the 2nd race on the schedule this season, and we did see a round of green flag pit stops. So You got to wonder if, with that information, a lot of the drivers in the field here tonight took part in that race and maybe looked at those fuel numbers and decided, if we get these early cautions, give up the track position, be able to run those extra couple of laps if we indeed go into yet another long green flag run. But there's something about season finales as well. When you've got those particular few that are in the battle for the championship, you've got those other drivers that aren't in the hunt, and some of them, they're going to go outside the box in terms of strategy. Other drivers, they're going to be a lot more aggressive in the moves that they make and the strategy calls that they play as well to just try and get that checkered flag at the end of the season. It's kind of like a weight off your shoulders kind of in a way, because it's one less thing to have to think about with championship pressure.
Yeah, for sure, and we already saw that aggression level. Even from our championship contender, Bronson Stafford, there, these guys just really aggressive really early, and obviously, early caution here might kind of cause them to slow down just a little bit to try to get a green flag run in here. But, and we know the championship picture is very slim, and a lot of things will have to happen for Robert Kenny or Shane Tierney to have a chance. As actually both of them decided to head down pit road here to top off on fuel, so they give up the race lead and second position. So that puts the 6 machine as the sole car who set out on the racetrack with that pit and all there during that pit cycle.
Looks like Dylan Body will be the one to lead us back to green. Lights out atop the pace car, and you'll see the field split from the bottom to the top there. The middle line, the front straightaway, designated as the choose cone for drivers to be able to elect which lane they want to restart in. So Dylan Body chooses the top. John Cannizzaro is going to choose the bottom. They'll be alongside each other. Row 2 going to hold Michael Norman on the inside, and Garrett Hess up top side. Looks like Vincent Belvano is going to complete the top 5 when we go back green. Now, we mentioned the fact about the championship battle coming in tonight, but also another battle. It's the second Dash for Cash race. We saw the first one in the first of the 2 Dega duels during the midway portion of this season, and coming off of that dual race weekend, the 4 drivers battling for the Dash for Cash here tonight. It'll come down to the best, highest finisher. Of course, the Dash for Cash winner at Talladega, Matthew Rodriguez, back in it again tonight. Michael Norman, who was the winner of the first Dega race, and Bronson Stafford, who won the second Dega race. They're in the Dash for Cash, and it was going to be Tristan Maher, who finished second in the second Dega race. So it was going to be the 4th driver, but he's not in the field here tonight. So it then resorted to the driver who finished 3rd in the second Dega race, and that was Dylan Poteet. So it's going to be Rodriguez, Norman, Stafford, and Poteet vying for that cash prize at the end of the night.
Yeah, something else to note here, another driver's not here tonight is Bill Edwards in the 50 machine. So him coming into this race 5th in points. Right behind him, Jason Shuey entered just 4 points back. So by starting this race, he immediately gains that position ahead of Bill Edwards. And Dylan Poteet, about 50 points back or just under, might have a little bit of luck on his side needed to get into that battle for that 5th position in points. He could also potentially leapfrog Bill Edwards as the green flag comes back out here, and Dylan Body chose the outside lane there on that restart. The sole car not to head down pit road as he leaves the rest of the field behind him there, the fresh tank of fuel.
It'd be interesting to see who Dylan Body tries to work with here. We're used to seeing him work with anyone that's got a Valvoline sponsorship during the course of this season. I believe the only teammate he's got in the field right now is Dylan Poteet, who's kind of fading back right now in the 9th position. He'll tuck down in front of Garrett Hess for the moment, and now the Fords are going to work on the top side. Cannizzaro is going to pick up Michael Norman, who got awfully loose there off the corner and almost came down to Valvano.
Yeah, that early kind of jumped there, but Dylan Body kind of separated the field just a little bit. The rest of the field now kind of catches up and accordions up down the back straightaway. Kind of a 2-car tandem now. Currently for the race lead is Shane Tierney and the 38 machine of Vincent Valvano both try to get themselves into the mix there. It's kind of just a dead heat at the front row here for the race lead.
And it's going to be Body now through 3 and 4, the shorter way around the racetrack, edging ahead. Garrett Hess going to clear for second. Shane Tyrion, though, he has really been committed to that apron on the back straightaway, now the front straightaway. How about 5 wide to the start-finish line? That was for 4th place. Poteet with a big run up the middle, giving a shove to Jovan Anderson.
Jovan Anderson picks up that lap lead right there, as he mentioned, 5 wide for the race lead. That early caution definitely didn't seem to kind of tone them down at all whatsoever in their aggression levels. Now you mentioned that 31 machine, Dylan Poteet, taking on the race lead, but Shane Tierney trying to use that apron line once again. Will now go down beneath the yellow line on the back straightaway on the flat part of the racetrack, and now try to overtake that 31 machine for the race lead.
This track is so spacious. It can hold them 5 wide, sometimes even 6 wide. Of course, with that apron available, they're able to have another couple of grooves to work with. And we saw them the last time we were here at iRacing Superspeedway, 5 wide to the start-finish line when the checkered flag was waving. We just saw it 5 wide come to the start-finish line on lap number 8, so we may be seeing a case of deja vu by the time we get to lap 60.
Immediately, Shane Tyrion there, so trying to defend Bronson Stafford from getting another lap led here. I believe he did lead one earlier on lap 2 or 3, but during the pit cycle, he didn't lead any at all. So maybe trying to just keep him from getting the most laps led if possible, and maybe swing some of those bonus points to their way, because I believe it might be still mathematically possible. It would take a lot, but I believe it might be mathematically possible, just barely, for one of these guys to try to upset him in that championship battle. But currently hunting out 3 wide now on the outside lanes. Mike Tellier up front goes underneath the 88 machine. And Shane Tyrion from help from Dylan Poteet. They both tan away up to the race lead.
Tellier going to go to the point. Poteet's going to jump to the middle. He's going to get a little bit of help from John Cannizzaro. Tellier about a car length back to Michael Norman on the inside line. Outside line got the pretty good duo there with Shane Tyrion and Robert Kenny. Looks like they need more numbers, though. It's just the bottom 2 grooves that are moving. Rodriguez, man, that car got wicked loose as he tried to get down to the apron as quickly as possible, but that banking transition to the apron flatness really upset his Steak and Shake Toyota.
Yeah, unlike Talladega last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago, that was the last time I ran there actually, but that apron transition, it's completely flat here at iRacing Superspeedway, as you mentioned there, and the banking here in the corners is extremely high, and it's super easy to get the car unsettled, just like he did there off the corners. He does it again right there off turn number 2. He tries to make that apron line work down the back straightaway, but not only do you be super careful coming out of the corners trying to jump down there, but you're also be super careful going into the corners, because if you get trapped down there, your car's not going to turn whatsoever, and you're going to have no choice but to slide back up on the banking, and that could potentially cause a wreck here tonight.
Tell you what, you can also tell by some of the early damage sustained by drivers that the pushing has come to shoving, and we're only 10 laps in. I was noticing that 93 of Jovan Anderson, he's got it looks like a Toyota Camry mold on his back bumper there on the 93. Somebody obviously gave him a bit of a shot at some point, and he's already got a little bit of marking there as Poteet, with a little contact from Michael Norman, almost loses it on the front straightaway.
Yeah, that actually kind of came from Bronson Stafford. He gave a shove right there, the 21 McDonald's for Michael Norman, and kind of had the 31 machine upset, but a great save by him to kind of gather back up and head down to the apron right there and actually retain in the 4th position here down the back straightaway. But yeah, as you mentioned, these guys are getting really, really aggressive with their pushes, and it's actually kind of damaging the cars and obviously upsetting them a little bit at the same time. So these guys are going to be pretty careful as to where they push and how they push. As Dylan Poteet, as I mentioned, caught down on the apron to turn number 3, and Michael Norman decides better of it and decides to give him some space there in turn number 3 to avoid an accident. But stuff like that could definitely get more and more aggressive later on in this race and could potentially cause an incident.
You know, it's interesting because we saw moments ago Shane Tyrion and Robert Kenny working together. Now Tyrion up behind Mike Tellier in 2nd place. Kenny's back in the 6th position, now pushing Matthew Rodriguez. But, for those 2 guys, with Bronson Stafford leading the lap, getting the pole, and all but clinching the championship at this point in time, there's still a little bit of a rivalry going on between the 34 and the 88, because they came into this race 3 points separated for 2nd place. As we've got a caution, I believe it's Dylan Body in the 6 has gone around. He has over in the middle of 1 and 2.
Yeah, some heavy contact there. The outside retaining wall. Obviously, going to have to take a look back here and see what exactly happened. It looks like about a 3 or 4 potentially car incident back here towards the back half of the field.
Take a look and see what happened. Dylan Body, like he was running maybe around the 11th position at the time. Jason Shuey, Jovan Anderson and company in the vicinity. Let's see where the contact started. Maybe the 21 gets a little help from the 93. See here into 1-3 wide with Anderson, Shuey. Oh, Shuey, I don't think he realized that Dylan Body was to his inside. Kind of came down, and nowhere for Justin Durand or Garrett Hess really to be able to go.
Yeah, some pretty light contact there. The 3 machine got turned around, and unfortunately Dylan Body just trying to avoid, obviously, the 3 machine sideways down on the apron, came up and got clipped by the 29 machine of Justin Durand, and some really heavy contact there. The outside retaining wall for both of those cars, and unfortunately, it looked like the 91 machine may have gotten some front end damage there. Also may have gotten a little lucky, just maybe potentially barely avoiding him there, but unfortunately, 3 machine of Jason Shuey also got on the outside retaining wall, so a lot of damage to those 3 race cars.
On board with Cody Lamas. That incident happened so fast, I don't know if he got involved or not. Ooh, that was paper-thin space between him and the 6 who was spinning back down the racetrack, and that's kind of the blessing and curse of iRacing Superspeedway with how spacious it is. Lots of room to race, but also if a wreck takes place, there's a lot of lanes that a spinning race car could block by the time you come up on the incident.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely, that self-cleaning racetrack idea of all that banking kind of sends the cars back down the racetrack. Obviously, they kind of have to spin up the racetrack first, like we saw there, to come back down, and it can make it really difficult to kind of judge where to go because your instincts usually tell you just to go to the high side because they'll slap it down the racetrack, but sometimes that forward momentum can kind of just carry them up to the outside wall. But back live for the entire field looks to be headed down pit road, at least for the moment. Matthew Rodriguez, the race leader, brings everybody down in line behind him, and just on lap 14 here, I have to assume this must be really putting on a fuel number here for the rest of the race. It looks like one car, and so Ivano is set to stay on the racetrack.
Albano looking for his first win on the season, a former winner last year at Talladega Superspeedway. And Albano coming into this race, I believe, up inside of the top 10 in the point standings. Correction, he is 12th in the point standings, currently a total of 19 points outside of the top 10 in the standings, so getting himself a bonus point here. And everybody wants to finish out the season with a checkered flag, but there's always that drive in every single person that puts on a helmet as well. If you can't win, finish second. If you can't finish second, finish third. Finish the best possible position you can and try and get the maximum amount of points that you're possibly able to get. Finish out the season as high as you possibly can in the point stands as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mentioned Bill Elbers there and a couple other guys not showing up here tonight. Joey Chapman not here in the field tonight. He entered tonight in 8th in points. So a lot of these guys inside the top 10 and even the top 5 could potentially just lose some points positions here, which obviously, other than just mostly bragging rights and trying to get the best result, you possibly can, to your point, doesn't make a whole lot of a difference. But for some of these guys, they definitely have to try to just gain a few more of those points and maximize exactly where they finish up the rest of the season.
Yeah, we knew that last week, obviously, Daytona setting up the drivers that were going to be battling for the championship this week, that racing was going to be aggressive, and it wasn't without a little bit of controversy at the flying of the checkered flag. Joey Chapman, as you mentioned, not in the field, was actually suspended for this race, as apparently there was some issue between him and I believe it was the 93 on the final lap of the race. So yeah, Chapman's going to lose some spots here, may drop outside the top 10 in the point standings, and I mean, here tonight, I think that we're basically going to see aggressive racing, but I don't think you're going to see tempers flaring here tonight because, again, what's really on the line? The championship's all but locked up. You got the Dash for Cash battle that's going on right now, but everybody's going to give it their all to try and finish out the season with a W as well. So I think that everybody knows what's at stake here. Everybody knows that all the rest of the competitors, they're going to make aggressive moves. They're going to, not necessarily make desperate moves, but they may make moves here today that they wouldn't have made the last time we were here at iRacing Superspeedway earlier on in the season.
Yeah, for sure. And all these guys, also the season 3 coming next year, they're going to try to get as many, much momentum as they possibly can head into a new season and try to carry that over and, hopefully try to make a little bit more of a name for themselves and make sure that they are, a force to be reckoned with in the future season. But, for sure, Dylan Poteet, currently the leader of that Dash for Cash battle, as you mentioned, those 4 drivers, Dylan Poteet, Matthew Rodriguez, the 61 machine of Bronson Stafford, and the Mike Tellier in the or Michael Norman, excuse me, in the 21 machine. All those guys trying to battle for that Dash for Cash, and most of them are up front here. Dylan Poteet leading Michael Norman up here on the outside lane, but those 4 cars definitely going to try to be pretty aggressive there to try to get some extra cash in their pocketbook.
It's interesting you bring up next season. I mean, let's talk about some of the guys that were really strong back in season 1, but we just didn't see the same type of luck fall their way here in season 2. Matthew Rodriguez, multi-time winner coming into this season finale, 17th in the point standings. Austin Grover, he obviously struggled early on. We haven't seen him for the last couple of weeks. Mike Tellier, he's gone to victory lane, but he was in the championship picture last season. He's 11th in the points coming into this one. David Durand, of course, as mentioned, the outgoing champion, mired down 10th in the point standings. I mean, how important would it be for those guys to win here today, kind of maybe set the tone for the new 3rd season?
Oh, yeah, it would absolutely be huge. Just the green flag come back out here. Vince Favano is a good jump on the field, but yeah, these guys definitely want to just try to carry that over. And obviously, momentum, it can definitely shift your mindset and the mindset of others around you, knowing that you were the last race winner before the season started, and you can kind of carry the momentum over, and definitely just kind of re-up your spirits and your confidence a little bit, maybe, as far as just, maybe getting some luck on your side. That definitely plays into a huge hand here at the Superspeedways, but just trying to carry that over and hopefully perform a little bit better heading into the next season. You can definitely start off your next season even better. As you see now, 3 wide out of extra, Dylan Pote gets a huge push there from Michael Norman. He jumps up to the outside lane, and Mike Taylor now is the guy in the middle that kind of got sent off the drive by everybody.
There was about 10 miles per hour difference right there between the 31 and the 97. And here comes everybody else. Rodriguez with a big run up the middle. Valvano has picked up John Cannizzaro along with Harry Grindel. And I did notice as well, after that incident, 4 drivers, a faster pair in the hole. We're not even halfway. Jovan Anderson taking on his faster pair. Garrett Hess, Dylan Body, and Justin Durand, who were involved in that incident, also taking on a faster pair. And as a result of that incident, it looks like Justin Durand is running 1 lap down, 16 cars on the lead lap. So Justin going to be hoping for another yellow flag here to be able to get the free pass, get back on the lead lap.
Yeah, most definitely. As you see up front here, currently a single foul. As soon as I said that, Sunny Machine jumps over the outside lane. Harry Grindel, and that minor up front damage from that first incident we saw there after contact with Robert Kenny. He brings a set of camera on the outside lane, but unfortunately for him, just does not get any help up there. As now that Michael Norman and Dylan Pote take advantage of that, kind of jump up the middle there and make a lane by themselves under the outside lane as to try to battle these guys up for the race lead. We saw John Carzaro last week at Daytona under the lights. He finished in that podium position in 3rd place there, and was one of those guys kind of boxing the inside lane, and definitely obviously wish he could have tried to get up higher into that outside lane and maybe had a chance of that victory. And I'm sure, obviously, as he's now 5 wide for the 2nd position, he'll definitely like to try to get a victory here tonight and try to carry that over into future seasons and to just kind of check off that box for him in that 58 machine.
This is one of the racetracks on the schedule where if you're leading and you see a run coming, you just wave the white flag of surrender. There's no way you're going to stop the momentum of those cars behind you because they've got 4 lanes to be able to work with. You saw just how quickly John Cannizzaro faded from view when Norman jumped to the outside and Tyrion jumped to the inside.
Yeah, most definitely. These guys definitely, taking those runs and making the full use of them for sure. As you see now, 50 machine, John Carzaro get back up the middle here, trying to get around the inside, of Dylan Pote, while on the outside of Mike Taylor and Shane Tyrion down there working together on the inside lane. But yeah, there's really not much you can do here. You see some blocker. Robert Kenny is one of the guys I usually see pretty aggressively trying to control the field up front and trying to hold on to the race lead. Flatout Racing once again, 5 wide now for the 2nd position. Once again, Michael Norman almost on the outside safer barrier there, trying to use every inch of the racetrack. As now Shane Tyrion somehow controlled the race leader there for a bit and heading into turn 1 ahead of David Duran now on the inside lane. But yeah, these guys just really understand that the runs are so crazy here and there's so much space to work with, to your point, including that apron lane, which you've seen Shane Tyrion use a lot of here tonight. There's really just nowhere to hide. As soon as those guys get a run behind you, you're basically just a sitting duck.
You know, we probably should have had a counter of how many times tonight we were going to say the words 5 wide. I think we're up to 3 or 4 times already, and we're only a third of the way through this race as Rodriguez with the debuting driver of Harry Grindel. Really strong race car, really good driver. He's done a very good job in the early stages of working his way up into the top 5. He, of course, was involved in the first caution of the day, not of his own making, but nice recovery, back up into the top 5 once again in that 70 car.
Yeah, definitely, proving the rest of these guys that, hey, I'm a force to reckon with. And obviously these guys in the final race of the season and coming off of last season, almost all these guys have been used to racing with each other. They all understand, what kind of moves they make and how much they can trust each other. And so entering into the fray, the group of drivers like that are all pretty comfortable around each other. It can definitely be pretty intimidating and, difficult to kind of prove yourself for us to field around you. But obviously Matthew Rodriguez was pretty comfortable with that sewing machine on his rear bumper, and he believes he can try to take him up to the front here as they kind of get boxed in behind Robert Kenny, but just continue to kind of shuffle away through the field and get up front.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We had at the moment through 1 and 2 a battle for the 3rd position. Actually, it was for 4th place between David Duran and Robert Kenny, and it's the first time this season that we've had 2 cars that are sponsored by GoDaddy, but 2 different drivers being thrown back to. The 24 of David Duran throwing back to Brad Keselowski's 2008 Cup car. Robert Kenny in the 34 car throwing back to Danica Patrick's 2013 Nationwide Series car. But it's very interesting. Oh, they almost made some contact right there. Almost some brand-to-brand contact.
Oh. Work on Heather right there in front of Michael Norman in the setting machine. We're just talking about Harry Grindel. Got a bit of a door there from Michael Norman in that McDonald's machine down the inside lane, but out on the back straightaway, 31 machine Dylan Poteet had just mentioned already he was driving back out of the field and immediately now goes back for the race lead. One of our Dash for Cash drivers not giving it up there, as now you see Michael Norman in line there behind him, trying to just control as many lanes as possible as they work their way through turns number 3 and 4.
And also a little bit of a note here for people, it's just a little bit of a fun fact. During the course of this season, the drivers have been in their respective team rooms. Here tonight, every single one of the 17 drivers are in the same room together. I mean, how chaotic is that gotta be for team communication when you're trying to work with a driver and not have the rest of the other drivers know what your strategy is gonna be?
Yeah, basically there is no team communication unless you try to PM each other over the iRacing service. But yeah, definitely going to make things a lot more tricky. And they can't exactly call anybody out either because they're going to hear you for sure and maybe not like that comment too much. But, as these guys kind of all single file now down in line on the inside lane. Nobody trying that apron line again. Shot Shane Tyrion using that a lot earlier, but everybody for the most part being pretty content with that currently, as on the outside lane, two of our debut drivers, Garrett Hess, getting a push there from the 70 machine of Harry Grindell, and they're making good work there on the outside lane as immediately Shane Tyrion enters his name into that mix and jumps through on the outside from help the 97 machine of Mike Tellier.
Yeah, we have only had 2 drivers win here in the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series in their debuts. Both of those races were the season openers. Jason Gracias in season opener number 1, and then, of course, earlier on this season with Ryan Hesgard, Garrett Hess or Harry Grindell could join those two as a first-time winner in their debut races. They've both been putting on a pretty good show. Now they're stuck on the top side and going the wrong way towards the rear of the field. Bronson Stafford has now gone to the point with help from Jovan Anderson.
As I mentioned, Bronson Stafford just kind of asserting his dominance there and also proving the insanity that is iRacing Super Speedway. He was 9th across the start-finish line there, and immediately by turn 1 entry, he was the race leader by about 2 car lengths. So just getting a huge push right there from Jovan Anderson and Mountain Dew 4 behind him, and now immediately jumps all the way up to the outside wall. Wasn't quite sure if he had a mechanical issue there or not, but looked like he just kind of jumped up there to get it out of the way, and now Jovan Anderson gets a push the race lead from Dylan Poteet.
Yeah, it's incredible, too, when you watch drivers, like they're purposely dropping to the back because there's so much banking in the corner, and when they move up the banking, either into turn 1 or turn number 3, the car kind of bottoms out with all that banking, really slows the car down, and to your point, almost looks like they're having a mechanical problem or something.
Yeah, I was worried his wheel might have disconnected there or something in front of the field. The car just kind of shot out the racetrack, but luckily, obviously, everything's under control there for the 6-wheel machine of Bronson Stafford and everybody else also behind. Very glad that didn't cause anything. It's Cody Lamas now. Saw him debut last week, I believe, at Daytona, getting a push there from Michael Norman. The 21 machine is to work the way on the outside lane. Matthew Rodriguez now, one of our Dash for Cash drivers, trying to get his way up into the mix as well, as they're side-by-side for the race lead, heading to turn 3.
Our 4 championship competitors coming into this race: Bronson Stafford, Shane Tyrion, Robert Kenny, and Michael Norman. A little bit of a fun fact for those drivers coming into this iRacing Super Speedway event. In the first race that we ran here earlier on this season, all 4 of them finished up inside of the top 5. Kenny took the win, Stafford finished 2nd, Shane Tyrion in 4th, and Michael Norman in 5th. Another thing that kind of jumped out to me was the fact that in that race, Bronson Stafford did not lead a single lap en route to his runner-up finish. Of course, people remember he ended up having the fast repair glitch that put him multiple laps down for the first 2/3 of that race. But, I think maybe wonder if that was a little bit of motivation for him as well to make sure that he led a lap here tonight, since he had a 0 in the lap led column the last time we were here.
Yeah, for sure. And one of our drivers there from that last incident, we saw Dylan Body take on that fast repair, as you mentioned, and get that 6 machine repaired. It looks like he has pretty substantial damage to the nose of the Valvoline Toyota Camry. I'm not entirely sure where exactly he got that damage from with contact from somebody. I'd have to assume, obviously, in the rear bumper. But, he worked his way up through the field there pretty quickly on the back straightaway and kind of made up quite a few positions. So it doesn't seem to be hurting too bad in that 6 machine, but it might be kind of sketchy. There now 3 and 4 and 5 wide up here for the race lead. It's really, really hairy into turn number 1.
Bronson Stafford had a huge run with Jovan Anderson on the apron. Michael Norman went up the 3rd lane alongside of Dylan Poteet. They now settle it out to at least 3 wide through 1 and 2. It's going to be Stafford versus Rodriguez down the back straightaway. Rodriguez picking up Dylan Poteet.
And Matthew Rodriguez getting a nice push there on the outside lane. You see the Sun Machine. He's kind of just got his nose up here and kept it clean ever since that first incident. Harry Grindale doing a fantastic job on that Sun to camera, just kind of continuing to keep his nose up here and kind of shuffle around in the craziness that is iRacing Superspeedway, and just trying to get as many laps sled as possible. And now you see the 91 Machine and Garrett have to assume trying to work together there, both of those debut drivers. As they kind of work with the field. Robert Kennedy now in that GoDaddy Toyota Camry gives a nice push through the Sun Machine. Nice little shove right there into turn number one. Notice the bumper hooking, and for whatever reason, seems to be a little bit easier here at iRacing Superspeedway tonight. It seems like they can be a little more aggressive with their pushes and not quite as prone to bumper hooking. So not entirely sure if that was an update or something to do with the setup or whatever the case might be, but they've been really aggressive with that all night long, and so far hasn't caused any issues.
We're going to keep an eye on this as this run progresses, but I noticed that Shane Tyrion has kind of fallen off a little bit there. There you saw him about 5-6 car lengths behind Jason Shuey. I think he's still in the draft, but I'm not necessarily certain if something happened that led to him being back here.
After Rodriguez gets turned from Dylan Potey in the outside lane, just as I mentioned, the bumper hooking gets bumper hooked by the 31 Machine in heavy contact. That outside safety barrier may have actually blown his engine up, as many other drivers behind. I believe that's David Duran, the 24 Machine. Others collected up as well. Lots of heavy damage race cars here in turn number 3.
Well, maybe that's why Shane Tyrion was as far back as he was able to get through that incident, as Oteet still trying to see if we can get that car refired. Stalled out there on the inside of 3 and 4. Duran going to drive away from the incident. There is Matthew Rodriguez, and Dylan Body now going to come down to pit lane as well, try and get some repairs done to the front of his Valvoline Toyota. Let's go back and see what happened there in turn 3.
Yeah, if that's a commentator's curse, I don't know what is, because as soon as I mentioned the bumper hooking and the pushing these guys have been doing all night long, and headed into turn number 3, the 31 Machine just got right in the rear bumper of the 57 Matthew Rodriguez, and fortunately turned him down into the side of the Sunny Machine. He kind of bounced off of him and went straight up on the outside retaining wall, and lots of heavy contact there. David Duran nowhere to go. He gets hit by Vince Valvano. Dylan Body, who mentioned, just took it on his fast repair and already had some nose damage. He gets into his teammate there and makes pretty heavy damage. And I heard an engine explode, I believe, from the 31 Machine, actually, Dylan Potey, one of our Dash for Cash drivers. Unfortunately, looked like he was stuck over in turn number 3. He might need a tow back to pit road before he can get a fix to that 31 Machine.
I kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but, talking about the spaciousness here of iRacing Superspeedway, and that makes it difficult because there's so much movement that goes on. Maybe a half groove slip up in the corner, maybe a half groove move down in the corner, and it makes it difficult for the driver behind to be able to line up the bumpers, which leads to the bumper grabs that we see here.
Yeah, for sure. And we mentioned last time we heard iRacing Superspeedway the transition from the banking on the straightaways, because there's pretty substantial banking here, even on the back straightaway. The transition from the banking to the corner, definitely can be pretty rough. It's kind of like Dover. It's probably the best comparison you can make, where it kind of makes you fall into the corner, if you will, and you kind of land. And unfortunately, trying to stay in the Sunny's rear bumper, during that transition can make it very, very upsetting to the car in front. And unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of turn that 57 Machine sideways down into that middle lane, and unfortunately just, obviously caused a huge incident. But it's very, very easy to do if you just barely stay on Sunny's rear bumper right there entering the corner.
It's like a total of 6 drivers getting collected up in this one. Matthew Rodriguez, David Durand, Dylan Body, and Dylan Potey getting the majority of it, but it looks like also Jason Shuey and Vincent Valvano got minor bits and pieces of that as well. Number of them looks like have already taken on their fast repair also, as Garrett Hess. I'm not certain if I guess this was a gas and go, as he only spent about 7 seconds in his stall. Looks like everybody else elected to actually take on some tires. I mean, especially also with the banking of this racetrack, you would have to think that it's a little bit abrasive on these Goodyears. Yeah,
for sure. Definitely the speeds that carry through the corner can definitely wear those outside tires out. But obviously he feels like maybe he took care of them well enough. And the thing on Superspeedways is usually the tire doesn't really slow you down per se. It's more of just comfortability. Whether or not you can make some aggressive moves can change some of the way you drive the racetrack and the cars around you, obviously. And also interested in pointing out there, Dylan Potey got a nice little push there for Bronson Stafford and Mike Taylor, both collectively kind of pushed that 31 Machine, who was crab walking sideways, back to pit road, so he didn't have to have to retire that car or get a tow, which would basically put him a bunch of laps down. So nice little assist there from our champion Bronson Stafford, and luckily for him, he gets his faster pair and gets back on the racetrack.
Dylan Poteet is going to come back out, albeit 1 lap down. Did take on his faster pair. Also taking on his faster pair was Matthew Rodriguez. And it looks like Dylan Body, all that front end damage. He was already a faster pair in the hole. Looks like they're spending a lot of time working around the grill of his Valvoline Toyota Camry, as he is currently scored at 2 laps down. Same for David Durand, who sits on pit lane. Now, Durand has not taken on his faster pair, interestingly enough. He did have one available. And Justin Durand, I believe, would have been the free pass car under this yellow. We did have him momentarily scored on the lead lap, but he has now lost that lap again. So he is running first car 1 lap down in the 14th position behind your front row, which is going to be Garrett Hess and Cody Lamas, Jovan Anderson and Harry Grindel. They're going to be row 2. Vincent Valvano and Michael Norman in row 3. Then John Cananzaro, Matthew Rodriguez, Mike Tellier, Bronson Stafford complete the top 10. Robert Kenny, Shane Tiernan, and Jason Shuey are going to be the last cars on the lead lap, 13 in total, as we are now into the second half of tonight's season finale.
Yeah, you mentioned David Durand there not taking on his faster pair, and he still had it available. I wonder if he made the same mistake he did a few weeks ago at Talladega, where he accidentally forgot to make it checked in. With all that contact he got there, probably had some required repairs he now has to sit and wait through. So, unfortunate for David Durand, as we mentioned, our defending champion, once again, will lose some laps here. It looks like he actually just got his faster pair check, and now is rolling out his pit stall.
So Durand will be 1 lap down, it looks like, when he comes back out onto the racing surface. He, along with his brother Justin Durand and Dylan Poteet, they'll be battling for the free pass on this upcoming restart. Dylan Body still sits on pit lane as Garrett Hess up through the gears leads us back to the start-finish line. We're back underway with 29 laps to go here in the FRN Flatout to the finish, 165.
Garrett Hess, 91 machine, giving a nice little countdown there to the rest of the field on that restart, but it didn't seem like anybody else really wanted to go with them, as Cody Lamas now works his way around the outside, and unfortunately does not have any help currently in behind him on that outside lane. Is now the 70 machine that's in line behind that 91 machine. They're both taking the way up from the rest of the field here off turn number 2.
Top line now going to get some momentum as Lamas is going to pick up Michael Norman. Norman now with help from Mike Tellier going to stick Lamas a little bit higher. He'll go up the middle, Will the McDonald's Ford Mustang. Let's see if the 2-car tandem in the middle can get alongside of Garrett Hess into turn 3. Hess has got Harry Grindel to his back bumper to help push him into the 3rd corner.
Yeah, it definitely seems that the 91 and the 70 machine are working together here pretty well as they continue to hold the race lead off turn number 4. Now back to the start-finish line. So 91 machine Garrett Hess will lead this lap as now Jovan Anderson looks and takes a peek on the outside lane as the 61 machine Bronson Stafford immediately shoves his nose to the inside and gets a block there, some contact. The 91 machine Garrett Hess was a pretty aggressive block. It's third. Bronson Stafford headed into the corner, both of them down the flat as they enter the corner. Luckily, both managed to get their cars slowed down in time to avoid coming back up and causing an incident, but that was a big catch right there for both of those drivers.
Wow, very close call for both of those drivers. Could have very well been a caution, but both of them able to get on the brakes, slow the car down, because there's no way, if they kept their foot in the throttle and tried to come back up the bank into turn 1, they both would have been wrecked by now. Nice awareness of making sure they slowed the car down to then return back onto the racing surface, but that lost them a ton of time to the lead pack now.
Yeah, definitely some pretty aggressive blocks there by Garrett Hess, and headed in the corner, it seemed like the 61 machine maybe was just trying to tuck back up in line behind him, and unfortunately misjudged the speed difference and still was kind of on the inside and just barely clipped in the left rear corner panel. But yeah, great save of both of those drivers, especially to avoid coming back on the racetrack. It's now back up front for the race lead, about 3 and 4 lines of contact. John Cananzaro kind of chopped the nose off Mike Tilley right there. They made some more contact, but luckily both managed to get onto it.
Like I said, you cannot block here at this racetrack because there's just so much momentum coming behind you. I recollect when we ended up interviewing Robert Kenny in the first iRacing Superspeedway event earlier on this season, when he ended up being able to block Bronson Stafford for the victory, and we asked him how did he do. He said, I have no idea. I just guessed. Oh, there we go. Mike Tellier up the racetrack. Did they save that? The 97 was about 60 degrees face to the left. Somehow he's pointed straight still.
Yeah, a bit of assist there for Matthew Rodriguez, who unfortunately took a big lick there on the outside retaining wall. When he kind of hit the right rear corner panel of Mike Tilley, it actually somewhat helped straighten them out. Obviously, a little bit of a good save there as well for the 97 machine. They all managed to somehow, in the middle of 3 and 4 wide, keep that in the right direction to 0 point. And these guys are just getting really, really aggressive up front here.
I mean, they were 5 wide, and my eyes might have deceived me. I think for a brief moment we were 6 wide there in the corner that led to that contact. How everyone is still going, I have no idea. That's David Duran, the 24, returning back to the racetrack, still 1 lap down in the 16th position, and looks like he's maybe about a lap and a half away from being put to -2.
Yeah, might have to fight his teammate Justin Duran to get those lucky dogs. Obviously, being 2 laps down is going to be pretty difficult to kind of keep, getting some of his laps back. And Dylan Pote and Justin Duran both being a lap down there, it might be pretty difficult for him to get both of those laps back. So he's going to need some more cautions here, obviously, get that help. And maybe if one of those 2 drivers gets involved with the incident, you can actually get one of those back and get back just to 1 lap down, which will make things a lot easier. But up front, Robert Kenny, 34 machine, we keep seeing more and more minor damage just kind of appear on these race cars, both on the front and the rear bumpers, as they keep getting pretty aggressive pushes and blocks, and everything else we've seen up front here so far is now Dylan Pote. It's a nice little shove there to the 34 machine to that back straightaway. And more and more of these cars get damaged too. It's obviously a lot easier for these cars to get turned sideways, and they're trying to push more aggressively because the bumpers don't line up quite as well, obviously, when they're dinged up and kind of moved all over the place. So these guys got to keep making sure they're careful and aware of what, how their cars push and handle the rest of these corners.
Yeah, Robert Kenny's going for a couple of things here tonight. We mentioned that he was in the championship battle before the green flag dropped, but now looks like with the performance Bronson Stafford's been able to put on here that he's got that championship locked up. So for Robert Kenny, there's 2 things he could accomplish here tonight if he ends the season finale with a victory. Number 1, he would have, for the first time in his TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series career, a multi-win season. Only 1 win on the season so far. That was, of course, the first iRacing Superspeedway event earlier on this season, and he had a win last year at Talladega. The other thing, too, that he would do that no other driver has done in the past 2 seasons, and that's sweep an entire racetrack in terms of the schedule. He would win both of the iRacing Superspeedway Series events here in Season 2.
Yeah, that's definitely a really impressive feat for sure. And this racetrack, as as we mentioned all night long, just continues to provide incredible racing and incredible finishes. And these guys can come 3, 4, 5, 6 wide across the start finish line. Who knows? And anybody can basically win it, obviously, which is the case of most Super Speedways, but it's kind of just turn up a little bit here at iRacing Super Speedway. As I mentioned, now 4 wide for the race lead. Dylan Pote gets a huge run on the outside as Shane Thierry and Robert Kenny were kind of fighting each other down there all the way beneath the yellow line on the apron. And now the 31 machine takes over that race lead from help from Justin Duran, who also has help from his brother there, of David Duran. These guys both laps down trying to fight back for the lucky dog, and Jason Shui, one of those drivers who unfortunately seems to be kind of just damaged and limping around here in that 3 machine. He also fell a lap down and now is out of any draft, so he's definitely going to need a lot to happen here to go his way to try to gain some of those laps back.
It's kind of interesting, kind of deceiving here with that 31 swinging around the outside. It looked like that was a pass for the race lead. That was actually a pass to try and get himself back in the tail end of the lead lap. It's actually the 70 of Harry Grindel and the 93 of Jovan Anderson. They're battling for the race lead right now. The 31 of Dylan Pote, kind of an X factor, maybe a drafting buddy for someone to help push them to the front. He's trying to see if he can get his lap back the hard way without the aid of a lucky dog.
Yeah, that's a great point. We also saw Bronson Stafford the last time here at iRacing Super Speedway. We mentioned that fast grip glitch he endured there and had to disconnect from the server and reconnect. Lost a handful of laps in the process of that. We saw him up front continuing to battle for that lead lap position, if you will, at least to get one of his laps back, and that ended up paying off for him, I believe, about once or twice. Got some of his laps back via the hard way and passing the entire field and catching a lucky caution. So obviously Dylan Pote, he'd like to do the same thing, and that would obviously also help Justin Duran, who's trying to fight for that free pass position just in there behind him. So if 31 machine can get back and lead a lap, catch a caution here, that might change the entire collection for both of these guys in the rest of this race.
And for people wondering why Pote would race so aggressively to try and be ahead of the leaders and catch a caution, if he gets the lucky dog, he has to start at the extreme tail end of the field. But if he catches a caution and is scored on the lead lap at the time the yellow comes out, he could work some pit strategy and be able to pick up as many spots as he wanted for the upcoming restart. So it's actually a net gain if he's able to be ahead of the leaders on the lead lap if we do have another yellow flag fly.
Yeah, and Jovan Anderson obviously is really appreciative of his help here. Kind of has a buffer, to the rest of the field. Matthew Rodriguez and Sonny Machine and Harry Grindel actually now in the 3rd position. Kind of has a bit of a buffer over the rest of the field here behind him, and just keep kind of getting pushed from that lap car of Dylan Potier and not really have much to worry about as far as hold on to that race lead and just kind of log some laps as we're closing in here. Just 20 laps to go next time by for the completion of this race. Things are kind of getting down to it. These guys looking at their fuel numbers, trying to figure out when they want to pit here for the final time, because obviously they can't make it the rest of the way on this tank of fuel. So they're going to try to figure out when they want to head down pit road and who they want to pit with, which, as you mentioned earlier, all these guys being the same voice channel, that's going to make things really interesting here as far as pit strategy.
And I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the mentality now that these drivers are now starting to look at the fuel numbers and start strategizing for pit road because, dare I say it, this is about the calmest we've seen them run in these 40 laps so far here tonight. Single file amongst the top 6 or 7. It's double wide and 3 wide behind, but they're all giving room. I mean, these guys have got it pretty spaced out for the time being, kind of settling themselves into their positions.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's usually when you can tell these guys are trying to just make sure that they, pit together and don't get boxed in from that outside lane. Because obviously, with people pitting on your inside, it is possible to try to pit from that second lane up there, but it just makes things way more difficult, way more dangerous. So you're going to try to get yourself single file now on the inside lane. Obviously, with the people you want to pit with, as you see Cody Lamas and Shane Tier, and they're now obviously looking at the fuel right now because they're trying to make a move up there on the outside lane and try to get out of the single file line, try to make some progress.
Like both Mike Teller and Matthew Rodriguez, both of them still up to speed in this lead pack. Garrett Hess and Bronson Stafford, who we saw get together with a block over in turn 1 about 15 laps ago. They are running nose to tail, just trying to produce as much speed as possible back in the 11th and 12th position. They're still in the camp of drivers I would love to see a caution come out at some point in time, get back up here as Poti jumps up to the top side. Cody Lamas going to shoot the middle, and he's going to pick up Shane Tyrion. We've seen a couple of drivers here this season be able to find victory lane that, we were talking about midway portion of last season, this season. They were always up there at the end, just never were able to close out the deal with the checkered flag. Shane Tyrion kind of fits that bill. He's a driver that's been consistently up in the top 5 week after week after week. He just hasn't been able to park that 88 in victory lane just yet. Maybe tonight's the night.
Yeah, and coming in this race second in points is actually pretty impressive that he's been able to do that just purely off of consistency. But obviously, that race win kind of just got him out of that championship battle as Bronson Stafford managed to lock that up here by leading that lap 2 on the race start there. But, obviously, like you mentioned, trying to pick that race win to get some of his bonus points, secure second place in the points most definitely, and just try to carry some momentum in the next season and definitely make sure he's a threat to be reckoned with in the future season.
Bronson Stafford's kind of covered all the bases here this season because last year it was kind of a tale of 2 seasons. At the early portion of the season, the first half, it was Austin Grover through consistency that kept keeping him, that was able to keep him atop the point standings. But then as we entered into the second half of the season and David Duran started to catch fire, finding victory lane not once but twice, then he was able to leapfrog to the top. If you look at Bronson Stafford in the 5 races prior to tonight coming into this event, not only did he go to victory lane twice, but in those 5 races, every single one of those races he finished up inside the top 10. So he found victory lane, but he also stayed consistent in the races that he didn't win.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's probably more impressive than as well as he actually missed the race. Robert Kenny.
Wow. Oh, he's got off the area. That's going to be a caution for sure. Almost had it saved.
Yeah, big contact there on the outside wall, and unfortunately got turned there with Cody Lamas down the inside lane, and unfortunately tried to gather it up before he got on the outside retaining wall, but there's 3 and 4 wide there. Did not have a lot of room to work with, and unfortunately collects Shane Tyrion, who we just were talking about trying to go to victory lane here tonight. Both of those cars, second and third in the points, so pretty heavy contact here. Just about 15 laps to go.
I'll tell you what, when I saw the 31 hooked up the racetrack, I saw the whole field swept up in a big one in turn 1. I'm shocked that it was just the 34 that went up and pounded the outside wall.
Yeah, most definitely. Did a nice job trying to keep it up there the best he could and out of harm's way. And obviously all of his cars back in their line behind him. Did a nice job trying to straddle him. And I mentioned, that car spinning across the racetrack. It's pretty easy to think that they're going to come back down pretty early. But he was still kind of getting hit and boxed, bounced around and around the rest of his drivers. And so definitely makes things, pretty difficult to try to avoid that 34 machine. But nice job there by all the rest of the competitors.
That was pretty interesting, too. We're going to take another camera angle of the Robert Kenny incident, but watch as he wrecks the three-wide formation that passes by him. Cody Lamas on the inside, Jovan Anderson on the outside, and Dylan Poteet up the middle. Now, the caution did not immediately come out, and those three were still side by side by side. Poteet trying to get his lap back. Jovan Anderson, Cody Lamas trying to figure out who was going to be the leader when the yellow flag waved. It was Cody Lamas that had his nose out in front when the yellow flag flew, so he is going to be the leader here under our fourth caution of the evening.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Justin Duran did not want to see that most definitely, because while Dylan Poteet unfortunately could not get in front of Cody Lamas there before the caution wave, as you mentioned, those guys fighting off turn number 2 there. While he, obviously got the free pass and basically puts him in a similar position, at least being on a lead lap no matter what. For Justin Duran, he was really hoping that 3-1 machine could get back to the lead lap before, he got back up there to try to make sure that he can get the free pass, position and get that wave around. So unfortunately for Justin Duran, he's still going to stay trapped a lap down along with Jason Shuey in the 3 machines. So both of them looking to try to get some more cautions here and hopefully move themselves back in the lead lap.
So Dylan Poteet going around, getting the lap back as the lucky dog. Justin Duran in the 29, staying out there as well. We'll see if he's going to come down pit road the next time by when the lap machines will have pit road open, or maybe he might elect to take a wave around, might try and catch himself another quick yellow, because he and Jason Shuey, as well as David Duran, as you mentioned, they would be battling for the free pass if he does indeed remain a lap down. And big break there as well for Bronson Stafford and Garrett Hess, because this now is going to bunch them back up with the lead pack as we are now at less than 15 to go.
Yeah, and what else this does too is this basically lets them go the rest of the way on fuel. We're talking about trying to set themselves up for putting under green, which you saw earlier in race 2 of the season here at iRacing Superspeedway. But all these guys now have the opportunity to come down pit road, take on 4 tires if they wish to do so, and fill that thing full of fuel. Obviously, it gives them that security the rest of the race. Even if we get some more time attempts, I would have to assume to be pretty comfortable on fuel here. So no more worries about that. And pit strategy is kind of just out the window at this point. It's going to be pretty much a race of just track position and try not to get involved in incidents here from here on out.
I love you brought up that fact about the possibility of making it the rest of the way, because going over iRacing Superspeedway and the effects that it has had here in this series in the closing stages has been practically ineffective in terms of overtime. Not once in the 3 previous races we have run at this racetrack have we gone into an overtime green-white checkered. So, could tonight be the first night, or will we stay with the status quo and run only the 60 scheduled laps?
Yeah, I feel like here at iRacing Superspeedway that eventually we'll have to change. So, to your point, definitely we'll have to be interested to see and have to wait to see if it does come into play here tonight. But something interesting to note: those 2 brothers, David Duran and Justin Duran. Justin Duran, as I mentioned, currently could not get the free pass. He decided to take the wave around along with David Duran, so that puts Justin back in the lead lap and David just 1 lap down. So I'm not entirely sure how much further they can go on fuel, with that being a pretty long green flag run. They might be banking on a pretty early caution here, but if they can catch that, it definitely puts them in a lot better position to try to get themselves back into the fray here and battle for the race win.
Now, obviously, there would be some pacing laps counted into this, where they'd have the opportunity to save some fuel, but the 29 and the 24 have been out on this run for 16 laps in total, so that would have put them all the way back to around lap 35, lap 36. I don't see how they could go 25 laps with what they've got in the tank. This says to me that they are in the assumption that within the next 5 to 10 laps we're going to see yet another caution flag come out, and they will then be able to come down pit lane. Dave Duran trying to get the lucky dog, and Justin Duran to preserve his spot on the lead lap. But Michael Norman, who along with Garrett Hess both elected to go with a fuel-only stop, they're going to be the front row. Norman, of course, in that dash for cash, along with Matthew Rodriguez, Bronson Stafford, and Dylan Poteet. So that caution saving Bronson Stafford in more ways than one. This puts him back in the dash for cash hunt. Then it's going to be Cody Lamas, who's going to line up on the outside of John Cannizzaro in row 2, Vincent Valvano and the aforementioned Stafford in row 3, Harry Grindell and Shane Tyrion, along with Matthew Rodriguez and Jovan Anderson. That is the top 10. The rest of the drivers on the lead lap: 11th place Mike Tellier, Dylan Poteet in 12th, Robert Kenny 13th, Justin Duran in 14th. Jason Shuey and David Duran find themselves 1 lap down in 15th and 16th, and Dylan Body still sits down pit road. Looks like he will be finishing out the season finale 17th here tonight at iRacing Superspeedway. It's going to be a total of 13 laps left to go here in regulation as Norman leads us back to the start-finish line, and that inside line did not get going.
Yeah, Cody Lamas right there on tow in line behind him. Bronson Stafford is a pretty far ways back, but to your point, Garrett Hess and the entire inside lane really, really far back here has worked way to turn number 1. Up front, I'm assuming these guys are going to try to just stick together here and try to make sure they don't get run over too quickly for us to field behind them. That's the thing here in iRacing Super Speedway. It's very, very easy to get yourselves too far out in front and kind of get run over with the runs you see here at iRacing Super Speedway. Now Garrett Hess immediately works his way to the outside lane with help from John Carazano. Now they take up the race lead in the back straightaway.
Yeah, those were two drivers that we were just a couple corners ago talking about were really slow on the restart. Now they're the leaders. Down into turn number 3, bringing Vincent Valvano along with him. Watching the middle of this pack as well, you've got Shane Tyrion now trying to work his way back up to the front. Interesting to note, we saw the contact that he took with Robert Kenny in that last caution. Shane Tyrion did not take on a faster pair yet, so he still has a faster pair to lean back on, and it looks like, at least for the time being, that 88 is still somewhat up to speed.
Yeah, Kenzov is just trying to ride in the back here and try to preserve that 88 machine for as long as he possibly can here, but he's kind of just chilling around the rest of these guys, Cody Lamas, Matthew Rodriguez, and you see up front here with just 12 laps to go, the aggression level already being picked back up here immediately from the restart. Robert Kenny now makes it 4 wide for that 5th position as he tries to look into the inside of the 70 machine. Does so, some contact though, as he gets squeezed in the middle of the lane right there. The 70 machine gets up out of his way to help try to avoid an incident there, but some pretty aggressive moves there out of the 34 machine.
Kenny's got to be careful because he took on his faster pair under this last caution, as did Mike Tellier. So, as usual, we're starting to draw closer to the point of the race where it's easier to name off the drivers that still have their faster pair available than the drivers that have already used their lifeline. As Garrett Hess, we knew he was aggressive on blocking earlier on. Let's see what he does here as he's got 2-3 different lanes coming up to his back bumper down the front straightaway. Canonzaro going to lead us into turn 1. Matthew Rodriguez and Dylan Pote going to pick up a number of spots on the inside as Pote got really loose there into turn 1.
Yeah, the Gary Hess trying to get in line behind him there and avoid being like 4 wide there in the middle. Unfortunately, they made some contact right there, and luckily mentioned it on, but Garrett Hess, to your point, trying to control that race lead, lost about 10 positions there, it looked like, and now immediately gained about 5 of those back as he works his way back inside the top 5 and the back straightaway.
Looks like we've got 6 drivers in total that have not used their faster pair. Vincent Valvano, we mentioned Shane Tyrion, also Harry Grindell, Bronson Stafford, Cody Lamas, and I believe, I'm trying to find who the other one was here. And I lost it. Well, I believe it's 6 in total. It might be 5. But right now, we've only got maybe a half dozen at the most drivers that still have a faster pair available. And you mentioned the fact that, at least in regulation, these drivers are good to go on fuel, so the wick's going to be turned up in terms of the runs and the moves that are going to be made. With no faster pair to fall back on for a good 3/4 of the field, this could come down to a race of survival.
Yeah, most definitely. As you see, Matthew Rodriguez, one of those guys without that faster pair available to him. He's doing a pretty aggressive move right there. Trying to get on the inside of Vince Valvano down there beneath the yellow line on the apron. Once again, it is legal here in the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series, but he decides better of it, backs out of it now. He's 3 wide on the inside lane for about 3 rows deep there, trying to get some tracking position down there on the inside lane. Michael Norman trying to control multiple lanes. The 31 machine Dylan Poteet hard in the outside wall, and now some contact up front for the race lead. Some of these guys 5 wide is coming across the start-finish line for the race lead.
Garrett Hess shoots up the middle. He's going to at least lead the inside line, but I think it's going to be Mike Tellier with help from Robert Kenny that's actually going to be the leader into the first corner. They're going to stay up on the top side as Kenny was not able to get clear of Garrett on the bottom. Garrett has picked up John Canonzaro. It's top line versus bottom line, and let's watch and see what 3rd and 4th line might formulate down the back straightaway.
There's 9 laps to go here. Garrett Hess making his debut in the series. You mentioned it, only 2 drivers have done it before, both in the season opener at Daytona. He's trying to do it in the championship finale race here in season 2 at iRacing Super Speedway, but controlling that inside lane for now. John Carazaro now in line behind him with Vince Valvano. Also until Mike Tellier, the first car, poke his nose up in the outside lane there for the 3rd position. Trying to make a charge at the front here, but unfortunately does not have any help up there in the 97 machine.
Just ran across a very interesting stat. Mentioned that we've never yet gone to overtime here at iRacing Superspeedway in the last 2 seasons. We have in every single iRacing Superspeedway race so far in this series had a total of 4 cautions. The last yellow flag we had was caution number 4. I have a feeling we're not going to stay at 4 here in this race.
Yeah, it would be really, really impressive if somehow we managed to stay at that number. But if we don't, I think that might definitely force these guys into overtime with about 8 laps to go. Currently working around to 7. If we get a caution here in just a handful of laps, it might kind of shift some of these guys' strategy. And I mentioned the fuel numbers. I think they might be okay for a couple of agreement checkered attempts. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. The rest of these guys, but up front, the aggression level continues to just not tone down whatsoever. Robert Kenny now shuffles by Taylor up to the outside lane. Now he looks to try to lead this lap. So across the start finish line. Garrett Hess actually will control that lap lead right there.
3 wide for the race lead. You've got to drop all the way back to 7th place to find your dash for cash battle. Matthew Rodriguez and Michael Norman, Dylan Poteet right there as well. Bronson Stafford has kind of fallen off the pace. He's now back to the 11th position. He might just barely have enough draft off of the back of the lap machine of Jason Shuey, but I'm wondering if that contact that you alluded to with Poteet up into the wall, if that slowed Bronson Stafford up enough that now he's lost the draft.
Yeah, it's one of these guys to the back that if we're looking to try to catch a caution, mentioned David Duran and Justin Duran both in need of that caution flag to try to save their race and try to get it back on a lead lap. They're both going to need the caution here pretty quickly so they don't have to head down pit road with just coming up to 6 laps to go this time by Robert Kenny now. It's a push there from the 70 machine. We mentioned Harry Grindle's been up in front, kind of back in the field, going back up towards the front, just continue to recover every time he kind of gets shuffled back. He's down the middle lane, doing a nice shot here in the closing stages, trying to push there from 97 of Mike Tellier.
See Michael Norman and Dylan Poteet work together quite a bit in this race, a Toyota and a Ford. They tried to make something happen there on the top side of the front straightaway. They lose ground the long way around the racetrack in 1 and 2 as Robert Kenny in control of the lead, back bumper full of the 91 of Garrett Hess, and then it's about a half car length back to John Canonzaro and Vincent Valvano. Now they, along with Harry Grindel, they're going to pull right up to the back bumper. It's a 5-car train on the inside line.
Yeah, and currently a single file through the first 4 cars. Vince Valvano, the last guy, kind of in line there behind, and he's trying to get clear of the 70 machine, just cannot quite make that move. There's a big bump there from the 70, or from the 97 onto the 70 cars. Now out front, Garrett Hess with a huge run at Robert Kenny for the race lead. Does not quite pick up that lap lead, just 6/1000 seconds separate him there at the line, but 5 laps to go now as they work their way into turn number 1. These guys are going to continue to just try to shuffle themselves around.
Whoa, what a move there. Was that Shane Tyrion, I believe, back there that went down to the apron into turn number 1, caught Cody Lamas unawares, and Cody goes up into Michael Norman in the 21 car. Norman, I believe, caught the wall off of turn number 2.
Yeah, luckily managed to get it back going in the right direction. Not really too much time lost there. This is time for the race lead.
Mike Tellier. Of Mike Tellier. That should be our 5th caution of the evening as the 91 stalled on the apron. No yellow flag as of yet. We are still green at this point in time as Canonzaro now goes to the race lead.
Man, really tough right there for Garrett Hess. He immediately is already towed back to the pit lane with just 4 laps to go. Unfortunately, just trying to block there. I mentioned it's really, really difficult to try to control this racetrack, and it looked like he was trying to cover off the nose of the 97 machine of Mike Taylor, and unfortunately, they made some contact. There's now more contact. Cody Lamas on the side of the 70 of Harry Grindle. These guys just continue to kind of beat and bang around this 3-mile Superspeedway, trying to get every inch of the racetrack as they possibly can. These
drivers are trying to go into overtime here as Matthew Rodriguez. Oh!
Identical incident, Vincent Valvano.
I think there was a connection issue there with Robert Kenny that might have led to that contact. 34 disappeared and reappeared for a brief moment, and I think that's why Valvano was sent spinning to the inside wall. Again, no caution as we come around to 3 to go.
Yeah, another single car incident, so no caution flag for either one of those drivers. Unfortunately, just really tough race. These guys continue to kind of make that contact on the back straightaway, and you mentioned it. That connection issue probably put a big role there. Robert Kenny kind of disappeared, and I'm sure the 38 probably thought he wasn't there whatsoever. Came down, they made some contact as the 34 still was obviously there on his screen, and unfortunately, just really tough break there for Vince Valvano, another driver trying to look to get their first career win here tonight. It's now the 21 machine, Michael Norman, one of our Dash for Cash drivers, takes over the race lead as they now work their way around the 29 machine, Justin Duran, the lap machine.
Yeah, Michael Norman, who 2 laps ago was up into the wall off of turn number 2, now out in front. It's amazing if you can keep the thing pointed in the right direction, how quickly you're able to recover with how good these cars are in the draft. Cannizzaro going to follow in his tire tracks as Cody Lamas trying to make something happen on the top. Matthew Rodriguez trying to help him because he wants to get up there ahead of Norman and be a 2-time Dash for Cash winner.
Yeah, Robert Kenny mentioned trying to get multiple wins here, back-to-back wins at iRacing Superspeedway. He's kind of mired back in the 5th position currently, but maybe trying to set himself up here for a last lap run with just 2 laps to go. The runs are so insane here. You can make it 4 or 5, 6 wide even. Just trying to set himself up for a run and make sure he's not the guy who gets run over, because he was in that position in the first race of the season, the second race of the season. Just trying to control all of the lanes here at iRacing Superspeedway. It's pretty difficult to do. Maybe he's trying to be on the opposite end of that and be the guy who gets the run at the checkered flag.
1.5 miles away from the white flag waving. Can they get through 3 and 4 as Rodriguez now goes to the point with help from Cannizzaro, tucks in front of the 70 of Harry Grindel, tries to block Cody Lamas. Lamas was there to his left rear. They make contact. They both save it into the corner, but look at the loss of momentum. That's going to allow Harry Grindel, with help from Robert Kenny, to try and go to the front on the top side.
By some miracle, though, the field managed to make it back around to the white flag. We will not, once again, not go into overtime here at iRacing Superspeedway. Is now the 34 machine. I mentioned it, Robert Kenny trying to get a run here on the white flag. Tries to work to the outside of Harry Grindel, making his series debut here, trying to hold off the pack of wolves here on the last lap.
All bets are off. The championship is decided. You bring home the trophy or the steering wheel at this point in time. The brake pedal is not an option. Norman, where does he go? He's boxed in as Kenny's to his outside. Lamas goes to the apron. Cannizzaro to the top side. We're 4 wide for 4th. What does Grindel do in terms of blocking into 3 as Kenny is up and over on the back straightaway?
Shane Tier with that absolute monster run. They were getting a huge push from Jovan Anderson into turn number 3. They all make contact. They all wreck. Bronson Stafford, Cody Lamas. Now the 70 machine goes back into the race lead. Michael Norman and Matthew Rodriguez both side by side with the race lead.
Grindel trying to get to the right rear corner. Pale Rodriguez. Here comes Norman. We're going to be 3 wide. Come to the start finish line. Grindel into Norman. Rodriguez is going to make it to the line. No, he wrecks as well, but he will cross the line ahead of Tellier and Shuey as Rodriguez is going to pick up his first win on the season, winning the season finale at iRacing Superspeedway.
Wow. In the words of Dale Jr., I cannot believe what I just saw. The entire field managed to wreck on the last lap. Matthew Rodriguez sideways, completely sideways across the start-finish line. I believe picked up the race win there from Mike Tellier, who I think got the second position as Jason Shuey was a lap down there and also got into the mix.
Well, it was not 1 year ago, but 1 season ago in the first iRacing Superspeedway event, Matthew Rodriguez made a move around the top side out of turn 4 to take his first win from Mike Tellier. Well, they finished 1-2 here tonight, and it's the final race of the season. They're not bringing these cars back for the new season, so yeah, use up every bit of those machines to try and win this race, and that's exactly what they did. It wasn't door banging, it was door slamming to the start-finish line.
Yeah, it was basically whoever can get their car the straightest while, taking the biggest hit on their door, to your point. 57 machine made a huge run right there and kind of just doored the 70 machine up the racetrack. Into Michael Norman, who was an unfortunate, innocent victim up there, kind of got pinched in the outside safer barrier and gets collected. The incident shuffles all the way back to the 8th position. So really unfortunate luck there for one of our Dash for Cash drivers. And Matthew Rodriguez picking the win here, also in the Dash for Cash drivers. Looks like he'll obviously claim that as he comes across the start-finish line. But just really, really insane finish there. They wrecked it off of them back straightaway. Then they wrecked it to turn number 3 for the race lead. And now coming across the start-finish line, more contact leads the 57 machine, wrecking across the start-finish line for the race win.
Yeah, and that second incident, we're going to go back and look at it again in just a moment as we're showing you everything that took place from the back straightaway down to the start-finish line. But the contact that we had there with Bronson Stafford, Shane Thierry, and I believe it was Michael Norman, they actually all got it pointed back in the right direction and all finished 5th through 7th.
Yeah, that is pretty insane. All those guys managed to keep that going in the right direction. And Just multiple incidents there, and it kind of just changed. The Sunny Machine looked like he had it down the back straightaway, got run over by everybody in line there behind him, 5 and 6 wide. And after making some contact, he managed to hang on to it. And looked like he had a second chance at it there, but unfortunately, that contact coming across the start finish line obviously set him up and got him sideways in the outside return wall and kind of shifted the whole complexion of that finish. But and Jason Shuey also heavy contact there coming across the start finish line, but being a lap down, he didn't really change a whole lot up there. And just what a wild finish. 2 words, iRacing Superspeedway.
Matthew Rodriguez, we're going to ride on board with him out of turn number 2. He was scored at the time unofficially in the 7th position. Little did he know that by the time they came around for the final mile and a half, he was going to be crossing the checkered flag with his Steak and Shake Toyota Camry in P1. Here it is. There's going to be the contact with John Cannonzaro and Robert Kenny on the back straightaway. Down into turn number 3. It's just all about right place, right time, as you'll see the contact up ahead with Tyrion, Anderson, and Stafford. Rodriguez just barely gets to the outside there, I believe that was Jovan Anderson's 93, and then coming to the start-finish line, trying to keep the 70 car of Grindel at bay. Grindel up into Norman and Rodriguez. I thought for a moment right here when he got out of shape and slid across the start-finish line that maybe, just maybe, Mike Tellier had a chance of nipping him at the start-finish line.
Yeah, first of all, the Three Machine Jason Shuey have a run at him there, and I thought he had a chance. He got into the Sunny Machine, and then I realized that it didn't matter because he was a lap down as he got hit by Mike Tellier right after that and kind of carried across the start-finish line. That was just wild. It seemed like the lead just kind of continued to shift as to who could win the race over and over and over again. And you mentioned Shane Tiering getting completely turned around backwards there on the apron, trying to go for the race lead into turn number 3, gets straightened back out. He comes across the line in the 7th position. So really just absolutely anything and all can happen here in Irish. You cannot give up until you're across the start finish line.
Now, I am being told that at this point in time, the finish is under review. So we're going to show you your unofficial results from the season finale of the second season, the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series. Matthew Rodriguez, the victor, Mike Tellier in second. Great debut for Harry Grindel in the 3rd position. John Cannonzaro last week picking up his first top 5 of his career. Going to follow it up with back-to-back top 5s, 4th place here tonight. And Cody Lamas, in only his second start, going to nab a top 5 finish as well. Bronson Stafford, he got the pole. He needed to only lead a lap, and he's going to get the championship with a 6th place run. Shane Tiering going to come up just short with 7th place. Michael Norman, Jovan Anderson, and Dylan Poteet look like they're going to be the top 10 to finish out this race. And I am being told that it looks like Mike Tellier is going to be the winner of this race, as the 57 of Matthew Rodriguez is going to be put tail end of the field. So it's Tellier, Grindel, and Cannonzaro. That's going to be your official top 3 in this season finale, which means with everyone moving up a spot, Michael Norman Bronson Stafford rather, is not only going to win the championship, he is your Dash for Cash winner as well here tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously really fortunate break there. Michael Norman looked like to be, battling for the race win there and at least a guaranteed top 3 position. And one of those Dash for Cash drivers unfortunately got really the worst end of that deal. He finishes in the 8th position here tonight, and I guess the 7th position now, moving up ahead of Rodriguez. But just really tough break there. Just unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time up there on the outside lane, trying to avoid that contact beneath him, and unfortunately got turned on the inside wall. And like I mentioned, have to work kind of the bad end of the deal there.
Here's the rest of the finishers. Robert Kenny caught up in that incident on the final lap, going to finish in the 11th position after what was a great season for him. The pit strategy did not work out for the Duran brothers, as they are going to finish 2 laps down apiece in 14th to 15th place. Garrett Hess out of the race in 16th, and Dylan Body going to finish 17th here in this season finale. So some drivers, they will be looking to keep the momentum up from this season finale into season 3. Others will be looking for a little bit of redemption after some poor performances here to close out the season. But it's now time to interview some of our top 3 drivers. And let's kick things off with the guy that unofficially finished in 4th, but is going to now officially finish in the podium in 3rd place. Let's see if we can talk with John Cannonzaro. And it looks like we actually might not have him available, actually. Nope, I do not see him. So instead, we'll actually jump to the second place finisher here today. Oh, correction. We do have John Cannonzaro, so let's talk with him now. Hey, John, Lucas, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. Got us?
Yes, I do, Seth.
And wild finish here tonight. And, he ended up actually getting involved in an incident there on the back straightaway on the final lap. I mean, did you think you'd be able to still make it up there inside of the top 5? And as we now know, finish inside of the podium position, because that final 3 miles was crazy.
God, I don't know what happened on the backstretch. I'm not going to point fingers. That's not my job. That's admin's job to do that. So I'm going to be respectful to Kenny, because I do believe I came down onto him. But obviously, again, not my decision for that. Otherwise, I have no idea what happened that last lap. It was all or nothing. Unfortunately, Vinny, who was helping me on race, big thanks to him, got wrecked the lap before. So it was all me to stay up there. And I don't know what happened, whether they all had a big wreck in front of me, or they just slowed down because they felt nice for me. I don't know, but I'll take it.
Talking about the runs here at Superspeedway and the craziness that kind of ensues from that, and we saw a lot of guys kind of in the back there. Robert Kennedy is one of the guys we saw kind of chilling, just waiting for the last lap to come around. Is there any kind of strategy you have in your head as far as where you want to get the run, knowing that being the guy in front kind of is the guy who gets swarmed by the rest of the field behind? Or is it kind of just push as hard as you can and try to get for the lead as many times as you can and try to hold it for as long as you can?
My mentality was there's no point of leading. You get your lap led, followed back to back, because they're going to wreck or you're going to get swarmed. There's no point of it. Just if you get a run, hold it there or go the outside. The outside's the fastest line at that track, no matter what you try to do. So patience, that's really all it is.
We talked about here tonight, Bronson Stafford all but locking up the championship. We did have the Dash for Cash battle going on, but pretty much at the end of the day, it was everybody just trying to finish out season 2 with a checkered flag. I mean, we also talked about the fact that no team rooms here tonight, everybody in the same room here in the Discord. So, I mean, could you feel the entirety of the race kind of like an energy change in the fact that everybody was throwing caution to the wind and just doing whatever they could to make sure that they had themselves set up to be the first one back to the checkered flag?
First half of the race, it's you guys should probably start calming down. We're only halfway through the race, and then the last 20 laps, it's game on. There's no mentality anymore. It's you want to win and strictly want to win.
Well, great run for you here tonight. Back-to-back top 5 finishes, actually back-to-back podium finishes here to end out the season for the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series in Season 2. Congratulations on that, John. And now we're going to give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
My father, Vinny Vavano, that guy, he's helped me both weeks now getting these top 5, so big shout out to him. He's a real great help on these plate tracks. I'm not very good on them, so. Kibble, he's in chat. Me and Hess and Grindle. Those two guys are fun. Glad they're in the series now with us, and you guys put on the broadcast up here.
That's John Cannonzaro, back-to-back third place finishes to end out the season, as he brings home P3 here tonight at iRacing Superspeedway. Congratulations once again, John, and we got that third season coming up. Best of luck then.
Thank you.
All right, well, we heard him talk about Harry Grindell. He is the driver that's going to finish second here tonight in his TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series debut. Hey, Harry, it's Lucas and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I've got you.
All right, man. I mean, obviously, during the course of this season, we've seen 20-plus car fields. We've seen exciting finishes. You get thrown into the fire here tonight in the season finale. I mean, first off, your impressions of what was going on around you, because, I mean, iRacing Superspeedway, it's 4 and 5 wide racing with these guys.
Yeah, it was insane tonight. I mean, I came in here completely blind. I only ever heard of Canizaro, and I know Hess from another league. Those are the only two names I knew in here coming tonight. And this was just insane. I only really knew about the league because of the old Xfinity cars. I've been looking for someone running them. So to come into here, something this high tension and this just insanely over the top was incredible. It was so much fun tonight, dancing and dicing with all these guys. At the end there, it was a bit messy, but I was laughing every second of the way. It was amazing fun.
Yeah, speaking of that, obviously, kind of jumping in the new series like that, not really having much familiarity with the rest of the drivers around you, whereas most of these guys have been, racing together for the last few months together, and you kind of understand, how each other race. Just kind of talk about trying to jump yourself into the fray here at a Superspeedway, especially a racetrack as crazy as here at iRacing Superspeedway, and just trying to figure out who you want to work with and what kind of respect you can kind of gain from your fellow competitors during the course of just one race here.
Yeah, so I mean, the first things first is obviously to not make a bad first impression. And I did kind of, come up and make contact with someone in dorm, and I thought, oh, maybe that's sort of stoppered me a bit, but locked the brakes, kept the car on the apron, didn't cause any crashes. So got a saved face there. As per people to work with, like I said, Hess, I know from another league, and we usually like to tandem on super speedways a fair bit. We nearly won a race a couple of weeks ago in the ARCA cars in another league together. So I knew that he'd be a good ally to have coming in, but bar that, yeah, it was just sort of trying to get a feel for, each car, what their numbers are, who races how, and I noticed that a lot of like the black, green, and white cars, sort of the monster colours, were the ones sort of laying back and then coming firing through the field. So just getting a handle on that sort of nuance to each different car and each different driver and how they all interact, and I managed to get a pretty good feel for it by the end of the race and nearly won. We were 3 wide coming to the line. That was amazing.
Yeah, let's talk about that finish, because outside of the 2 season openers so far, we've never had a driver win in their debut race, and you were so close to being able to do that. From about the back straightaway to the start finish line, that final lap, we end up seeing a lot of mayhem take place. So, I mean, how do you position yourself to get through something like that at a track like iRacing Superspeedway? Because we kind of documented that while it is spacious, that means that there's so many different areas that a spinning car can go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's just so many areas that cars can go full stop. I mean, trying to throw a block and stay in front here is really difficult. So on the final lap, down the back straight, I tried to throw a block to someone on the apron, and that really didn't work. That wasn't the move. But yeah, the thing with spinning cars, though, here is as much as there's a lot of space that a car could go, just how insanely high banked this place is means that they're only going to stay in that sort of bottom third of the tracks, because it's so steep, they're not going to go up the hill that bad. So as soon as they started wrecking, and I knew I was clear, it was just a case of get up as high as I could go up towards the wall. And then when I came out, it was just the 3 of us lined up.
Well, Harry, I think that here tonight, your performance is definitely going to be turning a lot of heads as a contender to possibly win in the upcoming 3rd season of this series. Congratulations on a tremendous debut. And now we're going to hand the mic over to you for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Of course. I mean, first things first, thank you to, obviously, the league owners, TNR, everybody that puts this on. My first race here, I'm very, very impressed with the show that was put on tonight. I had a lot of fun. Personal associates, obviously, Team Kamikaze plastered down the door. They're the guys I run with. Great group of guys. Not so much an iRacing team, more on a Settle Corsa team, but great group of guys. So big shout out to them. And that's about all I've got. Not many associates with me.
Well, that's Harry Grindell, 2nd place here tonight in his debut in the season finale of the 2nd season of the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series. Congratulations once again on a great performance there, Harry.
Thank you very much.
We're going to be talking with our champion, Bronson Stafford, in just a moment, but let's talk with tonight's race winner, Mike Tellier. Hey, Mike, it's Lucas and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you, boys. How's it going?
Well, man, I'll tell you what. First multi-time win season for you. You pick up the victory at a track that last season you were leading coming off of turn 4 and came up just short of picking up that checkered flag. So first off, I mean, how does it feel to end out the season as a multi-time winner?
It feels good. It definitely a high note. I don't think I've ever won the season finale race before in any league or series. So this is awesome to finish on this high of a note.
And obviously, we were talking all night long about the insanity that is iRacing Superspeedway and how wild and crazy that finish was. You entered that last lap in the 11th position, way behind the rest of the leaders with some damage to the nose of your car. And, come back around the start-finish line and come across the start-finish line first. Just talk about what went through your mind there during the course of that last 3 miles. Just kind of understanding you might be out of the position and a chance to win, and all of a sudden pick up the victory.
First off, I want to apologize to the 91. I think it's Garrett Hess. I don't know if he threw a block and turned off my nose or if I came up a little and turned him, but I apologize. With like 3 laps to go, I was begging Bronson and Shane to just back up a little, come back, boys. I need some help just to kind of keep me with the pack. And on the white flag lap, they literally go, we're probably going to leave you in the dust. And I'm like, it's fine. You kind of help me stay here. And then I don't know what happened. I literally thought I was going to finish 11th and just be on my way and enjoy the night. And people died in front of me and more people wrecked. And then Matt Rod and the 70, and I think it was the 21 kind of all got together. And I was like, oh, look at this, a top 4, top 3, second place. And now I get to sit here and talk to you guys as the race winner because of rules. So yay, rule packages.
Now, Mike, obviously, it's kind of been a little bit of a tale of two different seasons. Last year, you were in the hunt for the championship heading into the season finale. This season, you went out with 2 trips to victory lane. So, with the upcoming third season, how do you combine the two to try and make a run for that championship?
Convince Matt to run a 5 race season instead of a 12 race season. I don't know. There's definitely different strategies that go into play. For season 1, it seemed like you could hang back and just be there at the end and dodge the wrecks. Season 2, different guys showed up. The strategies all kind of changed, and I don't know. Maybe I just need to stay back a little farther, and good things happen. It worked out tonight. I was like 5 seconds off pace, and here I am. So maybe that is the strategy. Maybe I changed my strategy.
Well, I don't know about your theory of 5 races next season, because that means by season 5 we'll only have 1 race schedule. But anyway, Mike, a great performance for you here tonight to cap off the season. 2nd win on the year, 3rd win of your career. Congratulations. And now we're going to turn the mic over to you for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for being on the hood of my car yet again this season, and hopefully again season 3. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see what happens. Sky Motorsports, Bronson, Shane, Kenny, Tom, Matt Rod, my kids who I get to see for a whole week this week. I'm pumped. I haven't seen them in a while. Yeah, that's about it. TNR for putting on this great series, and hopefully we can continue it in Upredge. I believe we got a good thing going, and I'm excited to see what we can do next season.
Well, that's Mike Teller. He parks the FRN car in victory lane. The FRN flat out to the finish, 165, the season finale of the 2nd season of the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series. Congratulations once again, Mike. Go and enjoy that victory.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, well, he's been waiting to hoist that championship trophy, but first he's got to talk with us. Let's talk with the Season 2 champ, Bronson Stafford. Hey, Bronson, Lucas and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, so officially going to be ending out the season, 5th here tonight at iRacing Superspeedway. You clinched yourself the championship with the pole. You got the lap led. So once you knew that you had the points to keep everybody else out of that championship picture, then how did you approach the rest of this race? Because we know you had the runner-up finish here earlier on in the season. Obviously, you wanted to finish that one position better.
Yeah, it was just gonna have some fun, you know. I'm sure you saw a good couple times myself and the 93 and Shane and whatnot. We'd drop to the back 2 seconds off and get the draft and come flying up, and just having a lot of fun tonight, honestly. Yeah, because once I got pole in the lap lead, it was all done. Like I could have guaranteed with I could have guaranteed with parking it and getting the most lost positions as well, kind of thing. So yeah, it was just have a lot of fun tonight and hopefully try and get a W. And we had a good chance. I think I made the right move on the white flag into turn 3, but the 93 did the same move a little bit later, and Shane did the same move even a little bit later, and it just caused all the wrecks. And then yeah, but I mean top 5. That's top 10 every start, and top 5 in all but one in the championship. So cannot be mad about that.
And obviously, we were talking about all season long with the guys who kind of the faces of the series last season. David Duran, our defending champion, Austin Grover, the guy who came runner up to him. Unfortunately, kind of had a bit of a down season, coming off the success in the first season. And obviously, you stayed super consistent all season long and, entered into the race after qualifying basically as the champion. Do you think you can try to carry the momentum and maybe hopefully try to hurdle over that bad luck curse as far as being the defending champion and just try to carry that momentum all the way through, a new season?
I think that's always the goal. We definitely, I think, showed the most consistency besides even like my other teammates kind of thing. So it was always going to be. I think that's the difference. I think last season's championship, I only raced in one race, but I think in general every week the positions were way more flip-flopped. Like a guy would win one week and then finish 12th the next week, and then like 8th and 15th, and compared to myself and Kenny, we were top 10ing every week, and it's really really tough to do that with a super speedway type package, all the time. But hopefully we can just keep doing what we're doing and just keep ourselves in good positions, and it works out for us at the end of these things.
Now, not only do you end out the season with multiple wins, not only do you lock up the championship here in season 2, but also you pick up the Dash for Cash victory here tonight as well as the highest Dash for Cash driver. I mean, did that at any point in the race enter into your head, or was that kind of a little bit of a back burner and just trying to see how well you could finish out the season?
Yeah, once it was clinched, honestly, it came to about 10 laps to go. I totally forgot about Dash for Cash. And then actually Michael Norman mentioned it, and it was like, oh, yeah, okay. And then so it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, all right, I guess we'll just, we'll race as hard as we can and see who gets Dash for Cash as well. Because we were all still right there at the end, actually, like Poteet, myself, Norman, and Matt Rod. I mean, Matt Rod and Norman would have beat me if not for Matt Rod ranking across the line with it, kind of thing. So, how quickly things can change and turn for that. But yeah, that's gonna be cool. Honestly, we really did go out and kind of did everything we need to do this season, and really just kind of put a staple that I don't want to say was probably the most dominant driver in the series, but I think as a team in general we were. But I mean, winning championship, multiple races, and Dash for Cash all at one time, I think is pretty good day.
It was kind of interesting because we were talking about here tonight, all of you in one room in Discord, and Lucas was bringing up the point about the difficulty of keeping the strategy close to the chest. Well, apparently the Dash for Cash strategy was able to, other drivers able to know about it as well. So very interesting in all of that. But I mean, Bronson, obviously a great season for you. We documented the fact that not only were you able to find victory lane, but you kept the consistency there as well. Those were the two key points of who were in the championship battle last season, and able to really put it to everybody in the closing stage of this season to be able to lock up the championship about 5 races into this finale. Congratulations on a job well done. And now it's time to turn the mic over to you for some championship thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, definitely. We got Steak and Shake, Thompson Caterpillar, and obviously you guys with FRN. It's been a fun season. It's been a really fun season, especially watch back the races, and it'll be fun for another season. Huge shout out to TNR and Garrett for letting Matt Rod and Mike put on the series over here, and I know we're moving over to the UER name next season and whatnot, but obviously it's always nice to have somewhere that we were able to start out with and have multiple seasons on, and it seems like they've been fun and successful. So if that keeps going, and just obviously the admins, everything. It's just a lot of fun, really. And then honestly, thanks for everyone for coming out. We had good car counts. I think this was probably the lowest we've had, at least in the races that I ran that I remember. But even then, it was still just under 20 cars, which you can still have a lot of fun with at a flight track. So hopefully it keeps up. Hopefully we go next season, have the same, if not even more people, and have some more fun with honestly what is just a really great package. Like the Legacy Xfinity car right now is so much fun on these tracks. So hopefully it stays that way for at least another season and they don't ruin it on us.
Well, Bronson Stafford will be heading into that 3rd season as the defending champion of the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series. Congratulations once again, Bronson, on a tremendous season overall. Enjoy that championship and best of luck as you try and defend it next year.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
And that is going to bring the 2nd season to a close for the Sunday Super Speedway Series. I'll tell you what, never a dull moment week after week after week, from the thrilling finish with Ryan Hesgard at Daytona to the crazy finish here tonight that saw Mike Tellier move from 2nd to officially the race winner. Nonstop action, as we've just heard there from Bronson Stafford as well. Huge car counts, a lot of different drivers making their debuts during the course of this season. The outlook looks pretty good for the upcoming 3rd season.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the biggest thing too to point out is that we just saw basically different types of finishes every single week. It seemed like all of them pretty much being incredibly entertaining, but it seemed like every single week we'd have one week where we had 6 cars cross the start finish line at Talladega, have a photo finish, and the next week we kind of have a bit of a a slicing and dicing, passing to the grass and on the apron kind of move. And then next week, everybody kind of gets cleaned out in this giant accident 3 different times, and all of a sudden the car comes from 11th all up to the race win. And so these guys continue just to showcase that this, that nothing at all can be predictable in this series, and especially racing super speedways every single week, it just is nothing but entertaining.
It's kind of interesting if you look at last season compared to this season. Almost seemed kind of like a bit of a changing of the guard of who we saw up there at the front last season. It was David Duran, Mike Tellier, Matthew Rodriguez, Austin Grover. This season, we saw Robert Kenny, Shane Tyrion, Michael Norman, and of course Bronson Stafford. I'm looking at some of this young blood we had in the last few weeks. Cody Lamas, Jovan Anderson. We had Harry Grindell here tonight. Garrett Hess was up at the front for a good portion of this race. It's going to be interesting to see if these guys come back for the 3rd season, if it's going to be the changing of the guard again, and these are going to be our front runners in the upcoming season.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to say. A lot of these guys have kind of showcased that they can, be up front and contend. And obviously, when they run the full season, they could definitely make one of their names, at the top of the list and try to battle for that championship. But the thing that Super Speedway Racing is that it's just such a complete, shakeup of drivers, and it's a lot of luck based, but also a lot of skill based. And the difficulty for a lot of these guys is that when you have a Super Series series like this, all these guys are really, really talented and really, really skilled at these plate tracks, and they kind of understand what they have to do every single week, and it kind of comes down to that luck factor a little bit, where everybody's just so good that they kind of fight against each other, and it's kind of whoever gets the lucky pinball shakeup, if you will, at the end of the race to kind of get that finishing position. So it makes it really difficult for these guys to try to hold on to some consistency, and that's what makes Bronson Stafford's season this year just really, really impressive. Just be able to continue to finish up front, like you mentioned, and all these guys from last season, David Ray and Austin Grover, I'm sure they'll like to have a way better rebound season next year, and hopefully try to get themselves back on track to try to be, once again, battling for another championship.
Bronson Stafford gets himself an early Christmas present here tonight, as he is your champion in the 2nd season of the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series. We appreciate everyone that joined us here tonight and during the course of this season. Hope you guys have enjoyed our coverage, and we hope that you join us for the upcoming 3rd season under the Upper Edge banner. That will be starting next year. Lucas, it's been a tremendous season here. I appreciate you joining me in the booth for it.
Absolutely. That was an awesome season, and I can't wait for more. Appreciate it.
Once again, thanks to everybody that tuned in here tonight. Join us tomorrow night as we're going to be bringing you coverage of the 2021 Happy Holidays 200 for Rolling Thunder Gaming. We're going to be seeing trucks at Michigan Winter. That should be a good one with the green flag flying at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for Lucas Cram, I'm Seth Cole. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you guys for the 3rd season upcoming here for the Sunday Super Speedway Series. But until then, you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed